Hello, my name is Adriana Alfaro, and today I will be giving a presentation on all that I have learned while conducting my research about Khadijah. Firstly, I wanted to start with a general overview of her image and the more notorious parts of her life. She as a person plays a very large role within the Islamic religion, and this has to do with her very close ties to the start of Muhammad as a prophet. She is well known as the first wife of Prophet Muhammad, and in turn is also considered his very first follower. She was reportedly the first person Muhammad confided in. She has received a few other names, such as the Mother of Believers, and is regarded as part of the Four Ladies of Heaven. The Four Ladies of Heaven are highly regarded women, reportedly with ideal virtues. These four women include Asiya, Mary the mother of Jesus, Fatima, daughter of Muhammad, and of course Khadijah. I found that the title Mother of Believers was given to Muhammad's wives. This was because the prophet notably knew his followers more than they knew themselves, and thus his partners became the mothers of those followers. Here I have presented a bit more information about what is known about Khadijah's early life. She was born to her mother Fatima and her father Khuwailid in the year 565 AD. It is reported that her father was a successful businessman and merchant, and thus his work and skill allowed her to come from a wealthy and rather privileged background. She is often regarded as a hard worker, someone of rather great intelligence. Like her father, she too was skilled in business matters. In the year 585, it is said that she was orphaned, as her mother had already passed away, and her dad passed away later, reportedly in a war. However, this information is up to speculation, as an entirely separate account mentions that her father did not pass away until after she was married to Muhammad. Here I have presented a bit more information about Khadijah's life before having married Muhammad. As mentioned previously, she was very well regarded and seen as intellectually proficient. This was very impressive, and she stood out significantly, as she lived in a patriarchal society where women such as herself were not very prominent. Following the death of her father, she was the one who inherited the family trade business. She excelled greatly within that field, and managed quite a number of caravans. Her caravans were so successful that they became recognizable among other people. They were known to travel great distances, and could be seen all over the Arabian Peninsula. Though she was not completely alone in her work, often receiving advice from family members like uncles or brothers, the fact that she could manage such a business in that time period was very unheard of. Before having met Muhammad, she was known to have married and been widowed twice. However, this fact is up for speculation that I will further elaborate on within the next slides. After having been widowed, she is said to have been proposed to a number of times, all of which she rejected. This is another very monumental fact about her personality, as women often tried to be married at the time. Although she managed the caravans, she did not travel with them. It is reported that she did not enjoy traveling very much, and thus she would hire employees to travel along with the caravans, and then pay them a percentage of the profits. As I had mentioned earlier about the speculation of her marriages, there are two very different perspectives on Khadijah's relationship prior to being known as the wife of Muhammad. The belief presented on this slide would be the Sunni belief. Within this belief, it is accepted knowledge that Khadijah was married to two men prior to Muhammad. The first was Atiq. It is said that she bore one child before she was widowed. Following the death of Atiq, she married Malik a bit later, and during her marriage with him, she bore a total of 2 children, both of which were girls. Those 2 daughters were named Hala and Hind. The Sunni and Shia divide was sparked after Muhammad's death, as there was discourse on who would be his successor. The Sunni group believed that the group of elites that were within the Islamic community should be able to choose his successor. The second belief stems from the Shia belief. This belief suggests that Khadijah was a virgin when her marriage with Muhammad started. If this fact were taken as true, then this would suggest that the children she is frequently depicted as having were not hers. The Shia belief's suggestion for this information is that the children were in fact not hers, but rather her sister's children, or her nieces, that she was helping take care of. This belief of her caring for these children would align with the positive light she was depicted in. She was known to help the poor, and was generally considered a giving and selfless person. Considering her strong personality, Khadijah was notoriously picky when choosing her employees. She typically went for people who she found to be hardworking and would overall benefit her business. This attribute is what allowed her to initially meet Muhammad. Muhammad, at the start of their relationship, was nothing more than one of her employees. Muhammad was rather young at the time of his hire, only about 25 years old. Although he was young, Khadijah regarded him as a very hard worker. Additionally, a later business matter attended to by Muhammad proved him to be a very trustworthy person from her perspective. The story goes that Muhammad had been assigned to a trip to Syria and would be accompanied by one of Khadijah's assistants. Upon their return, it is said that the assistant had a very good impression of Muhammad and reported that he conducted business in a very gracious way. It is suggested that Muhammad brought back about twice the profit Khadijah had expected. This left her very satisfied and impressed by Muhammad. After having been widowed and left heartbroken a second time, Khadijah had taken a step back from the idea of marriage. However, upon his arrival back from Syria, and with the good reports, she had made the decision that she would propose to Muhammad for herself. Like many of the other actions she had taken in her life, this was another very rare one that would not have typically been seen at that time. Khadijah had entrusted this proposal to a friend by the name of Nafisa. Nafisa was the one to deliver her proposal to Muhammad. It is reported that Muhammad was initially very reluctant, not completely sure on what to say to her proposal. This had to do with his financial situation, as he did not feel comfortable enough nor ready enough to support a wife. Nafisa shared with Muhammad that Khadijah was perfectly capable of supporting herself and did not really need his assistance in providing what she needed. It is after learning this information that Muhammad felt comfortable and agreed to the proposal. Considering that both Muhammad and Khadijah were orphaned, they consulted their uncles about the marriage. Both were willing to agree, and thus the two were able to marry. It is known fact that the two had children together. However, the number of children they had together was up for speculation. Some sources suggest 7, others 8, but the most frequently used number of children is 6. These include Qasim, Zainab, Ruqayya, Kulthum, Fatima, and Abdullah. It is known that Qasim died rather early in life, most likely around 3 years old, and Abdullah also died rather early in life. The reason behind the Allah following Ab's name is that he was born after Muhammad had seen the vision and was proclaimed as a prophet. Muhammad and Khadijah were also known to have 2 other children in the household. However, these children were not biologically theirs. Ali was a nephew of theirs that they agreed to take care of. However, Zayd actually served as a slave within their household for quite a while. However, after Zayd's father was ready to retrieve him, he asked to take him home. Muhammad suggested that Zayd be allowed to choose where he wanted to stay. In the end, Zayd chose to stay with Muhammad and Khadijah, and thus Muhammad made the decision to formally adopt Zayd as his own son. Not only did Khadijah serve Muhammad as a wife, but was also reported to be one of his first followers. Khadijah is notoriously the first woman to convert to Islam. This is because Muhammad reported his vision to Khadijah after having gotten a revelation from the angel Gabriel. Khadijah believed Muhammad wholeheartedly, and thus she was the first person to accept the truth of God being one and Muhammad being a prophet. Khadijah was extremely supportive of Muhammad, and she was willing to support all of his duties that he needed to do as a prophet. She was even willing to take on the financial burden and was willingly supporting the both of them so that Muhammad could continue to complete all his duties and share his word. Khadijah believed wholeheartedly in Muhammad's mission, and she herself spread the word willingly, encouraging others to convert and challenging other prophecies. What is so notable about Khadijah's conversion is that she did not worship any gods nor any idols prior to becoming Muhammad's wife. This was not a common practice at that time. In fact, many people were religious. Thus, her eager conversion to Islam is seen as very respectable. Unfortunately, Khadijah fell ill and passed away 10 years after Muhammad had become prophet. She died at the age of 65. That same year was the year that Muhammad's uncle had passed away, and thus he labeled it the Year of Sorrow. Overall, she has left a very lasting legacy. She is seen as a very important person within the Islamic religion, as her support is what encouraged Muhammad to spread his word. She can be seen as an icon and a role model for women. She was clearly a hard and intelligent worker, but her devotion is very respectable as well. She was a very interesting person to learn about. On this slide, I have included all of the links of my sources where I have found information. Thank you very much for listening and your time. Have a nice day.